Hi, I'm Dr. Allie Sharma, and welcome to Coping with COVID-19. Quick disclaimer, please note that this interview is for informational purposes only. It's not considered medical advice. Please consult your own provider for any issues you may be facing. If you are in crisis in the United States, please call 911. Outside, please contact your local emergency services. So today I am joined by Alexander Klingspor. Alexander is a surrealist artist with a focus on oil paintings. He's a native of Sweden. He lives in London. And today I'm speaking to him about his experiences for two reasons. First, he, while in quarantine, experienced an illness that's consistent with COVID-19. And second, I wanted to hear a little bit more about how the situation of coronavirus and the quarantine is affecting his art and his livelihood. So listen in a second to Alexander. Thank you. Okay. Hi, Alexander.
Hi, Allie.
So nice to see you.
Likewise.
Okay, so let's dive right in. So I know that after you started social distancing, you started to become sick. So tell us a little bit about where you are at the moment and what happened during that period.
Right. So I live in London, and I was in my studio at the time I got sick. So for me, I'm kind of quarantining anyways when I'm painting long periods of time. So my studio functions as an apartment as well. So basically it went from one day to another. I was feeling great, just a little bit tired. And then I woke up the next day and I was having a very high fever, and my joints were aching, and I had a severe headache.
Okay. And what did you do? Well, two questions. What did you do after having these symptoms, and how is it affecting you psychologically, right? Knowing that our awareness about symptoms is a lot of us are hyper vigilant at this time. So how did it affect you?
Right. Well, because of the media having blown this up, and because of there's a serious threat going on, and people are dying from it, and we're being told that people are dying. It was, of course, alarming. I did not know what it was. It could have just as well been the flu, and it still could have just been the flu. I don't know exactly what it was, because here in the UK, there's no testing available. So, of course, it was stressful. But at the time when I was sick, all you have to focus on is just sleeping. It was that kind of a high fever, just like a influenza, that there is no real strength to worry. Even the first 24 hours was just lying in bed basically, and letting the body fight it. But as time progresses, for me the symptoms were fairly mild. If this was the coronavirus, I think I got away fairly easily. I had no cough really. I had no difficulty breathing. But during the 3 days that I had this high fever, of course, I was worried that it was going to affect me. And the fear becomes very stressful. And of course, when you're alone, in my case, I don't have any immediate relatives or family nearby where I am in London. So I felt extremely isolated.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about that, right? Because I'm in touch with a lot of people, obviously, who are alone or who live alone. How has that been for you? Because obviously you had these symptoms, you've recovered, which is great. We're very happy to hear. And I know the NHS, you had consulted them and they recommended that you stay at home. But how has it been for you to be alone during this time? And how have you been coping with that?
Well, the part where I had the high fever and I wasn't feeling well, in a way, this is just my personal opinion, I like being alone, those kind of situations, because all I do is just battle the disease anyways, and I'm not feeling particularly social, and I just like to be alone to handle it. Of course, it's scary when you don't know if it's a life-threatening situation. As soon as the symptoms passed, and I was able to get back into painting again, I reconnected with my work in a way that I haven't done for a long time. So for me, being isolated with absolutely no distractions has been kind of a revelatory experience where I get to connect with my paintings again, and I get to sort of spend full time with my art. So that has been extremely rewarding in many ways.
So how is the connection different then for you, as you described? What is different about it?
I think I've been a professional painter for 20 years. I think I started out it's living in a studio with a much lower budget, as one does, start out a career. And I had a quite, I will almost dare to say, like a romantic kind of a situation. The cliche of an artist living in his studio and always working and painting. But there was something there that really tied me to the work. Spending time with oneself, regardless if you're a painter or not, I think makes you face yourself. That can be scary, but it can also be extremely rewarding to actually go from being uncomfortable with being alone to being very comfortable with being with oneself. And it's a journey. You get to know yourself. And I got to reconnect with myself through the art that I'm doing. And that was, to me, has been a very positive experience.
And let me ask you, do you think the content of your work is now affected, or does this give you new content? The fact that you are confronted with yourself, but also in quarantine, right, in this socially distanced landscape?
For me, I have so many works in pipeline, so I think the content might be delayed. It might not be an immediate change in the theme. There is, of course, a reflection. My artwork always, or at least I try to always reflect on the world around me, what's going on. I think one of the biggest things in our time has been environmental issues in many ways, too, which in a way coronavirus is tied into anyways. But so right now my focus is on those issues, and I express that in a slightly surrealistic way. But I do think it will be a delayed reaction. I think that there will be some form of energy in the paintings that will be noticeable after this time period.
So maybe we can check in a month or two again and see how it's influenced your work. I think that would be interesting.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So tell us, because I could see two paintings in the background, just tell us a little bit about your work before we go.
Right. So the images that you see in the background, the one in the furthest in the back, I'm sure it's quite hard to see, but it's actually a large party scene. I have been painting urban scenes and the burlesque world for many years, but as of recently, I've moved more towards nature, and that's what you see in the front here, immediately behind me, which is based on my sketches from Costa Rica, my last trip there. And it's my way. I think it's a little bit of therapy for me to be able to paint nature, because I cannot really enjoy nature now. So I was planning to go back to Central and South America just before this pandemic hit. So this is kind of the second best thing I can have instead of the immediate jungle.
Yeah. So you said something, which was you're finding a way to channel. You didn't say the word channel, but I'm interpreting a little bit. You're finding a way to be confronted with yourself, and then you're channeling it into your art. So what is your advice based on your experience to other, perhaps fellow artists who might be struggling with this social distancing during this time?
I think just relax and go into your own space, basically, your internal space. Try to find a calm in order to find your creativity, if that's what you're struggling with, or if it's too many voices in the head and too many kind of I should do this, I should do that, and those kind of thoughts that I often get, or I get distracted by looking at my phone and so on. This is the time to let go of all that, because the outside world isn't calling you anymore. The outside world is actually telling you to stay at home or wherever you are. So this is the perfect moment. You won't find any better excuse than this to face yourself.
Thank you so much, Alexander. It's lovely to see you. I'm glad you're doing better and that you're safe. And I'm glad that there is a silver lining for you and your work.
Thank you, Allie.
Okay. All right, so let's get clinical with Dr. Allie. So 2 things that I heard. One is that when he came down with symptoms that are consistent with COVID-19, he experienced a lot of fear. So let's talk about that, because a lot of people, we're used to having mild viral symptoms. We probably don't even think twice. But in this era, we are all hypervigilant, we're tuned in, and fear might arise if you have a dry cough, or if you're clearing your throat, or other people around you might have fear. So what did Alexander do? I spoke with him before I interviewed him. So I know that as he spiked to fever, he called the NHS helpline and his doctor. So he got advice quickly. He was able to maintain calm. He followed their direction and things improved. So if you're feeling fear and you're having symptoms, please call your doctor for advice. Have a telemedicine visit if they have that on offer, or speak to a nurse or NP who can advise you on what to do. That's number one. And that will help to assuage fear and also do the right things. You just want to make sure you're seeing things in the right way. Don't try to self-diagnose. Number 2, what struck out to me is that he's been confronted with himself. That could mean a lot of things. I'm hearing that a lot, actually, as a psychiatrist, that people are confronted with their own emotions, all the emotions that they're experiencing in response to COVID-19, and he's channeling it through his art. And I think there's something that we can extrapolate from that. If you have a creative outlet, perhaps this is a time to reconnect with that if you have time, and to channel your emotions into that. But also, if you're having a lot of emotion, find a way to express it. That could be just through acknowledgement to yourself. It could be through talking to loved ones, to people that you're connected to virtually, and just talking about how you're doing and hearing how others are doing. There's power in connection through this. And I like what Alexander said, that he's able to connect through his art. So for him, there is a silver lining, and there usually can be positive things that come out of periods of severe adversity. So thank you so much for listening to Coping with COVID-19 by Dr. Allie. I hope you find this helpful. And please recall that this is not an actual therapy session or a psychiatric assessment. And if you're in crisis, please call 911 or go to your nearest emergency room or consult your own provider. Thank you so much.